Hi everybody, this is Em from DIYM. Today we're going to be doing an Easter video. This one, you don't have to go out and buy these particular eggs that you can hang on a tree. You can get stuff like this that are more round for Christmas ornaments. That might actually be a little easier to cut out a circle with a die if you want, or if you have circle punch. There's lots of different ways of cutting things out, or you can just cut things out by hand, which is what I'm going to do in this video. But yeah, I have these egg-shaped ornaments, and it doesn't matter if they fit together. I might end up not actually giving these away to anybody because these are actually things that I use specifically for the dinosaur egg bath bombs that I make. These are really good molds for that. So I'm just going to show you guys how to make a cool egg surprise dome packaging. And I'm going to show you some stuff on the computer. Anyways, I just wanted to just show you guys what I'm using for this. I'm going to just measure it really quickly. Eggs are a little bit of a tough thing to measure, but I'm going to try to do it anyways. This egg is about from the middle here, and I'm going to do inches. Let's flip this around. It's a little easier to measure. So this is about 2.5 inches width. Lengthwise is not quite 4 inches. I'm not measuring this part. I'm just going to measure this part here, but it's not quite 4 inches there. It's wide here, and then it sort of goes into a bit of a point here. So this is going to be traced out on Illustrator. But yeah, so that's about 2 inches there and about a little under 2 inches here. Depends on where you do things, but it's almost like an oval shape, but it's a little bit off. That's the thing with eggs. They're really difficult to make your own. So I'm going to scan these in. I'm going to show you guys how I scan things in on the computer real quick. Okay, so I'm going to try to, if I can, put this, there's an arrow here. I don't know if you guys can see this because I have this on an angle right now, but there's an arrow here to show where the paper's going. This is clearly not paper that I'm going to be scanning, but I do want to get the shape of this egg to trace out in Illustrator. So I'm just going to put that down here, close to the top. Okay, and hopefully that will scan. We'll see. But anyways, turn on the power here. Okay, so in order to scan, there's all these different options here, right? So there's maintenance, Wi-Fi setup, copy, print photos, scan, personal stationery, quiet mode, settings, maintenance, back to that one. So I'm going to go to scan, obviously, here. And then I'm going to press this says select mode, so okay. It says to memory, to computer JPEG, to computer PDF, to computer email, to computer WSD, and then to memory again. So I want to do to computer JPEG. And it says okay to proceed. And then it goes USB connection, desktop, and then it just says my desktop, I guess. And then all these different options that you can scroll down here. You can scroll up or down. So I want to go to this desktop. So then I press this diamond shape here to scan it to the desktop. And then it says it's scanning. So it's just scanning. And then it says it's complete. So I'm just going to back out of all this. Take this out, but yeah, I'm going to check it out at the computer and show you guys that scan, okay? Okay, I have this screenshot here, and I'm just going to pull this onto my desktop. And then I'm going to bring it into Illustrator. I'm going to change the name to Classic Clear Easter Egg Scan. Okay. Open. There it is. So I'm just going to open that JPEG file. So this should show it the actual size of it too, which is really good. That's what I want. So you can see the basic shape of this here. I'm going to try to see what I can do here with an ellipse tool. I'm going to do an oval shape. I'm actually going to make this transparent, bring this out a bit to get the basic shape of this guy. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see what's actually happening here. So I'm taking this selection tool, take the line, and try to match it as best as I can to this egg shape. Okay, so let's do some playing around with it. So I'm going to take the direct selection tool and then play with the toggles here. I'm going to change this color actually to something to stand out a little bit more, just so that's a little easier. So I'm going to do blue for now, just for a second. It's a tough thing to master here. Just going to do a lot of playing around and toggling. It kind of looks like a basic egg shape. I feel like this isn't looking amazing. I think that's a bit more egg shape, but I just want to make sure that makes sense with this. Not fully. I don't know. I think this is going to be as good as it gets right here. I'm going to take this guy out and just delete that. So I'm going to save this egg shape. Save as. outline. Save that on the desktop until I get everything corralled into a folder. Okay, so Control minus minus. So I want to do a copy of this. So Control C and then Control B. Okay. I'm just going to move this whole thing over. And then one of them, I wanted to press Shift and then expand on that egg quite a bit. And then I might even expand it a little bit more than that to make it look like a split open egg. I'm going to make the same line weight, so that one's 4 points. So I'm going to do 4 points for this as well. So I'm going to turn it around. Object, transform, rotate the whole thing 180 degrees. There you go. Okay, so now this is the right way. Okay, so basically I'm going to cut this out, this part right here, and then I want to have the egg laying in the center like this. I'm going to have some cool patterns happening, but yeah, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to save this part. Save as. Looks like Easter egg, 2 lines. It's going to be on my desktop as an AI. Okay, so I designed this guy here. This is how it ended up turning out. I took away this thing and just made this background as well here. I just did this chevron pattern forever ago, and I was playing around in Photoshop a lot with this, but I did a PNG of this whole chevron pattern. Took away a bunch of the chevron pieces here and here, so I just had a couple lines here. 3 of the dark lines and then 2 different colors here. So I colored these different colors here, and then I did some polka dot patterns here, and then I did a stripe that matches everything on the inside here. I was going to do a stripe that's diagonal, but I was like, I like this. This is fine. This looks fairly Eastery, but I find this pattern makes things look circus-like. I don't know. And then I put, it's a little bit wrinkled, unfortunately, at the top here. I tried to smooth it out a little bit, but it's not that smooth, but it's okay. It's just going to be a tiny little bit wrinkled here. I prefer if it was not so wrinkled, obviously, but stuff happens sometimes when I laminate with this cool, snowy, holographic look here. But I just made sure that this fits in there. And then this, what I did was on the back of this, I put some words and curved them, did a little arch, then Photoshop mostly this part, and this arrow. These are all Photoshop. And this, I just took this guy out, and then I put a circle there, and then I made a border for the brush, did this perforated edge. It kind of looks like scissors going across, and then it's thicker and it sort of matched the line work here. And then this, I did like an oblong shape, I reduced it to half, and then I did another shape over top of it so that it sort of blended in, and everything's a white background, if that makes sense. So this part right here, I did in Illustrator, and these parts here, I did in Photoshop, and I did like white words and then just outlined it in black. So it just looks like the backing. So when you turn it over, it's going to have this cool perforated edge thing here. So what I'm going to do is get out I'm going to try to be very careful with this, but I'm basically going to get out a X-Acto knife and make sure it's tightened on here because sometimes they loosen. And I'm going to try to place this as much as I can here and then cut around this egg shape as best as I can. But yeah, you could do whatever design you'd like. This is just designs that I made when I was in Photoshop. And I've showed you guys how to make Photoshop patterns and stuff like that before. So I traced around it. Sorry, these are sticking together for some reason. Just gonna follow this line here that I made already. Okay, so that's that. And I just want to make sure that this fits in here. It pretty much fits. Let's see. Yeah, pretty much fits here. That's what I want. So I want this little part here covered up, but if you want to, you can snap that off too, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to cut around the outside of the line. But yeah, you don't even have to digitally do art for this. You can always just draw it, and then you don't even have to do holographic lamination, but sometimes it helps to laminate at least once over something like this, just to give it some stability. But yeah, you can totally do this with shaker things you can get too. And that might make things a little bit easier for you. I'm just going to snip this a bit. Clean up those edges slightly. So that should fit on there quite nicely. Okay, and hopefully I can glue that onto that side, and that would look really cool like that. Okay, so first I'm going to actually cut out this part because these two, I don't know if you can see it, these two aren't matching fully. I'm just facing the light a little bit. They're not matching when they printed, but I would like to match this up as much as I can right here with this. And these should be the same size. It just didn't print out nicely, unfortunately. I don't want to laminate this part because this is going to be, I'm going to make this perforated so you can tear it easily and then get your surprise out of there. And I made this really big, so in case there's any screw ups, I can always go inside the line. But yeah, you can even put words on the front here of this packaging as well. I just decided to do the words mostly on the back. But you guys can design it however you'd like, okay? This is just an example of what to do. At least what I did. So then when you flip it over, it should have this surprise inside thing on the back. So that's gonna be cool. Okay, so before I glue things down to each other, I wanna make this little flap here. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my craft knife and then just try to cut out a pull tab. I don't want to rip it, but I want to free this. There we go. Okay, so there should be this pull tab here. Okay, but I'm going to tuck it under there, so it should be good, okay? And then right on top of these lines, I'm going to make sure I have a perforated edge. It's okay if you go over the lines too a bit. You don't want it to be too far away from the lines, so it's just a little easier to pull. And I want to make sure that it's going through on this side. Okay, looks good. Just want to make sure. I don't want it to be all the way through, but I do want to make it a little easy for people to rip it, okay? So I'm just going to do that same thing all the way along. Try not to hurt yourself because this is really sharp. But I'm just pulling up the paper a little bit and watching my fingers and stabbing the paper. So it's a little easier to get the knife through. But yeah, I'm trying to keep my hands well away from this knife because I don't like knives in general and I don't want to stab myself. And I don't want you guys to hurt yourselves either. So you can do what I was doing earlier and just cut it that way. But this is a little bit easier for me to just sort of help stab the paper a little bit. Try not to wrinkle the paper as well if you can. It's kind of hard. But this is a very pointy end here, so it's a little easier to stab the paper. So yes, you should be able to see this perforated edge on this side. So I'm not going to put real candy in here. You can always put wrapped candy, so Starburst or little Easter chocolates that are wrapped. They look like little eggs and little bunnies and that sort of thing. You could do flat. I don't know if every country has it because I think that there's kind of rules about it in certain countries, but you can get Kinder Surprise eggs that are flat. You can probably put that in there as well. So there's all sorts of cool stuff you can do with making this surprise package. So I'm just using these little fake candies because I'm going to demonstrate how this opens up in the end. Not really actually giving this to anybody, but I just thought this is kind of fun in case you guys wanted to try to do something like this. Just going to put a few, they look like bunnies. So that'll look like that. I'm just going to glue around some of these edges with, I'm going to just use my Barely Arts glue for this, but you can use all different kinds of glue, whatever you feel comfortable with. Lots of white glues will probably work. I'm going to try to keep this kind of away from this egg a bit. You can glue directly on the egg too if you want to. I'm just going to corral these guys here a little bit before I place this down. It's hard because there's this part right here, making things a little difficult to flatten out completely and glue down. It might be a little easier to glue down if you didn't laminate things, maybe. So that's coming up a little bit, I find. I'm actually going to cut inside the line here, so it looks a little nicer. Hopefully it looks a little nicer and lines up a bit. Another fun thing that I have here that I can actually use in this instance is this guy. This is why I didn't put words on the other side. And you can just line this up. If you want to, you can also die cut this stuff out, but I find this is really easy, this punch. I'll put the link to this down below for you guys, okay? I did this in another video, this punch, and this looks super professional. You can put words down here too if you'd like, about the contents or whatever you'd like, but that's pretty much that. And it looks super cute. You can always cut off here too if you want to. Let's see here. This could be rounded out a bit more. Yeah, you might want to actually glue down the egg itself. I'm just leaving it out just because I don't really want to glue it down. But what you do is take this pull tab and you just open open this up and then dump out the contents. That guy's trapped in there. And made a fun little surprise Easter egg. I don't know what you call it. Dome shape thing? Little Easter egg surprise dome, right? So you can put whatever you want in there. And as I said, put a little thing on the back to pull and away you go. I think it's really, really cute. As I said, you might want to glue down the actual egg itself, but I want to reuse this. So I don't really want to have to scrub off everything, like all the paper fibers and stuff like that. But that's basically what you would do. You would make something like this. As I said, you can always draw it out instead of digitally doing a pattern. And then I like to laminate it, but you can laminate it however you want if you want to laminate it at all. But yeah, make sure that you cut out a center of some kind. As I said, the easier thing to do is to get some sort of round shape. That's going to be a little easier to cut out, say with a die. Or there's even shaker dies that line up with some shaker domes that you can get that might make this sort of thing a little bit easier to handle as well. It's kind of fun. This is fun, obviously, if you want to send crafty supplies as well to your friends. These are cabochons that look like candies. So you could do that to friends who like to craft with things like that. Or you can give people candy. You put charms and stuff in here, jewelry in here, all sorts of fun little things in here. But yeah, that's pretty much that. That's the idea that I had that I wanted to just show you guys really, really quickly. So I really hope that you guys like this. Once you get the design, it's pretty easy to make, but I would say print off the back side, this part here, and then the back side here. Print that off together. Print off one more for the front. Laminate that if you like. Cut that out like I showed you. And then before gluing things together, do this here. Glue it all and you're good to go. It's pretty straightforward, and if you want to, you can do this, or you can just punch a hole in the top. Depends on if you want to get a punch kind of like this. There's more hole punches out there, but these are really, really fun punches. If you want to make some professional packaging, I feel like these punches are really cool to get. I've done a lot of packaging in the past, and I wish I had a punch like that. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys liked that video. If you do, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and share the video with anybody that you think is going to enjoy some unique Easter stuff. I really enjoyed making this. I had this idea for so long, and it's a lot of fun to make this sort of thing. Yeah, let me know if you have any other ideas down below, or if you want to make something like this, or if you've already made something like this, and maybe you have some tips for me down in the comments. Just let me know what you think. I hope you guys enjoy your Easter, if you celebrate that, obviously. Anyways, have a good one. Happy Easter. Take care. Bye. Happy crafting.